Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
Good morning, Glenn.
Hey, what's up, Mikey?
Two guys on their own path to recovery. Well, that's not really true. What does it say? Two guys
On their own path of recovery.
Yeah, but we're not. We're not on our own path to recovery. I mean, we're on our path of recovery together.
Right. Yes.
Right. So it's
Not sure what you're
path
saying, but yes,
Yes.
I'm going to emphatically say
we're
yes.
not two guys. We are two guys on our own path to recovery, but we're doing it together.
We're doing it together.
Right.
We're hiking the Appalachian Trail of sobriety together.
Right. But your path's not exactly like mine,
No, it's not.
but it's not that much
But
different.
it's the same
either.
path.
It's the same path, and we use a lot of the same hiking tools.
Yes, we do. We have the same tools in our backpack.
I could do a.
How in the world did we get on backpack?
I could do a whole. We could do a whole hiking theme, except I don't hike, so I'd be a little short of material once I
Yeah.
get past the water bottle.
Me neither. I mean, a hike for me is like getting out of my car at Walmart, walking to the Walmart.
So did I tell you about my early on in not early on in sobriety, but early on in life? I was a social smoker, and I thought this is a nasty, nasty habit.
Wait, you were a social smoker, and now
Yes.
you're what?
Professional.
You're a professional. Okay, no.
So I was a social
recognize
smoker,
that.
but I was just bending over that line where I was really smoking a lot. So, long story short, I decided one night on the way home I'm going to change my ways, man. I'm making a resolution. So I crumble, the balance of the pack out. I crumble it, I throw it out the window. Yes, I littered, right? And the next morning I get up, I put on my jogging pants, I strap on my shoes, man. I hit the road running, man. I'm going to change the course of my life.
Wait, you actually went jogging?
Yeah, about 8 blocks down to the 7-Eleven, and
Get
I
it back.
bought a pack of cigarettes, called my wife to have her come pick me up. True story. So that was it.
All right, so let me share a quick story. Has to do with alcohol. So this is, I don't know. In fact, this is my last relapse, and so I bought this bottle. It was a smaller bottle. I'm used to buying those ones with the handles on them, and this was a pint, I guess it's called.
Okay.
It wasn't a fifth. It was the next one down.
Okay.
Quart
Right.
or whatever
Okay.
it is. So I bought it, and I was so frustrated. I drank like half of it. I'm like, I just got to stop. So I remember I took the bottle, and I threw it out in the cornfield.
Okay.
And I can tell you, well, first of all, the next morning I was hungover and shaken.
Uh-huh.
I went back and looked for it, and I couldn't find it. And I can tell you, it was literally 2 years. Every time I drove by that cornfield, I thought about that bottle. I'm like, there's still half a bottle of vodka out there. Nobody will know.
Nobody will know. Oh, that's funny.
But I could never find it, and I think that is a blessing.
I think that's a country and western song, waiting to be born.
Absolutely, man.
I lost
love
my
it.
bottle in the cornfield.
Tossed
It
it.
really ain't no big deal.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So, it's real funny, though, that you said that, because all my years of drinking, I know airplane bottle. And the guy would say, what do you want, a pint, a quart, a fifth, a handle? I'm like, I would just point. I want that size.
The biggest.
Yeah, right.
I know.
Well,
I love
not
it.
if you're traveling. Now you got to go with the
yeah.
smallest.
I know.
It's all strategy,
Here's what
my
I
friend.
never understood.
Yeah.
I never understood a flask.
No, too much work.
I mean, you got to get that little funnel, and I was thinking about getting my son a flask for Christmas, just as a joke. He's 18, but he's going to school in Ireland, so you can drink when you're 18. And
He's 18 going on 30.
Yeah, so you can drink legally in Ireland at 18. So I was thinking, hey, that'd be kind of funny to get, because he just started drinking while he was over there. But
You just get him a Binny's gift card.
I didn't want to support his habit. That would look bad, Mikey. It looked bad. So what are we talking
Feel
about
bad.
today? By the way, it's great to be back in the studio.
Hey, by the way, guess what? Welcome to our YouTube listeners. How about that?
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Love it.
So, yeah, we're just kind of rolling out into YouTube a little bit. Same old product delivery, just two guys on their own path to recovery.
Different channel.
Audio, different channel. That's it. Same bat theme, same bat channel.
I love it.
Right. Yeah. So welcome to our YouTube listeners. And chime in. We love hearing back from people. And I mean, a lot of the material that we end up talking about here comes from listener engagement. I mean, people just say, hey, thank you for this. I really struggle with this, or thank you for, can you do something on this? It's
love
very
our
helpful.
listeners. Love our listeners. You know what somebody told me that they're hesitant to put a review because it's not
their name. It's not
exactly.
anonymous.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what it is. But you know what's funny is we have an international presence. In fact,
I saw
we
that
just
post you
posted this
did
week
on Instagram.
I mean,
Yeah.
we're in 50 countries.
That's crazy.
I'm not sure if they're robots or bots or what they are, but so be it. We hear from people all over the world. In fact, I think 88% of our listeners are in the United States.
Okay.
Not that I'm a numbers guy, but
Right. Leaves a full balance of 12% coming from other places. That's
Bangladesh,
awesome,
who
yeah.
knows?
So yeah, listen, today
What are we
thought
talking about?
thought
What are we
we'd
doing?
Back it up a little bit, and talk about challenges in. I don't want to necessarily say in early sobriety, but these are really just. But my list kind of ended up focusing and caring about the difficulties, the challenges in early sobriety. But look, it could be difficulty in mature sobriety, or it could be difficulty in considering getting sober. So anyway, challenges.
So challenges
Yeah,
in sobriety, challenges getting sober, challenges.
yeah.
All right.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I
Because it's not all rainbows and unicorns, is it?
well, no.
It's funny. We spend time on social media and through different accounts, and it's funny because I have and I need to watch how I say this, but I can almost tell when somebody's in the first 90 days. Mm-hmm. I can almost tell. Mm-hmm. And I have sponsees. I can tell. And everything's perfect. Their life is great. Everything's amazing. Everything's And I'm like, well, how long you got sober? 9 days. Well, they didn't drink like I did because it took years for me to kind of recoup or rebound. I don't even want to say rebound because I didn't want to go back to how I was. Mm-hmm. So I was, reborn. I don't really like that word because I got a religious connotation to it, but I built from scratch.
I said the exact same thing the other day. I tore down on October 13th, 2018. I was starting with zero.
It's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
But, and I had challenges along the way.
Right.
I mean, I had a lot of challenges, so I'm looking forward to unpacking this with you.
Yeah, and I mean some of the things that you have to rebuild are your emotions. You have to manage your what do we call them? Let's just call it cravings or your habits of drinking. Mm-hmm. You've got to handle your relationships. You got money issues. Let's just call them issues at first. They could be problems. They could be challenges. Whatever. In some cases, we all have to face a challenge of loneliness, boredom. There's mental health issues out there. Those are challenges. Navigating those sober is a lot different than navigating them when you're out there, binging. And then transitioning, just kind of, doing things like taking the garbage out. It sounds wacky, but my wife had bailed on the notion that I was going to get the garbage out on the scheduled time. So she just did it, right?
Right.
So,
right.
So things like that, and then lastly, or maybe not lastly, is just the omnipresence of the fear of relapse. I'm just speaking for myself. Don't want to go, like you said, don't want to go back out there. A, because I don't want to feel how I used to feel, but B, I don't want to lose how I feel today, which is, for the most part, not. I don't know what the statistic is, but it's a lot of unicorns and monkeys, or however you say that.
Yeah, so let's touch on a couple of those. Love the list. So the first thing that I found, now for me, just a real recap for those that don't know my story, I tried everything in my power to get sober. I tried every strategy, I tried Glenn's way over and over and over and over again.
I tried everything in everybody else's power as well.
Yeah, and then I just got to the point where none of that worked anymore, and I hit my bottom. It was September 2014, and I literally surrendered. And what that means to me is I said to my counselor, Matt, I said, look, I will do whatever you tell me to do. I just cannot take another drink.
Mm-hmm.
But so just think the biggest challenge at that point was change, right? People hate change. I was a change agent at senior executive level in business.
Oh,
People
yikes.
hated me.
Sure.
Right? Because when people saw me come around, something was going to change.
Something was right.
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 But my favorite saying at the time was, if you don't like change, you're going to like irrelevance even less. Right. And for me in sobriety, if I wasn't open to change, because everything had to change in my life,
Right.
except for the way my heart, everything had to change. I had to have a psychic change.
Sure.
And if I wasn't open and willing for that, then I wouldn't have been able to take 5 steps in this program.
Right. Well, the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, anyway, which is a program that we've chosen to follow, and it's worked really well for us. It talks about the need for that psychic change, right? But the psychic change is the change that's going to take away your obsession and make you acknowledge your cravings, for what they are.
Plus,
cravings.
how to,
right.
Cravings certainly, but also how to just deal with life.
That's right. Well, and isn't that just the thing? The psychic exchange is one thing, but then we got all these physical changes. You had to physically stand up off that counselor's floor at some point and put your left foot in front of your right foot and say, "Oh, okay. Well, what's in front of me right now? Well, let's see. I got financial problems, relational problems. I got transition. I don't know where I'm going to live. I've got my friends are not my friends. My emotions, I don't know what they are, right? So you had all these things you had to actually process and physically forge forward with.
Yeah, which I had every one of those.
Right.
I was just getting out of a relationship. I left the relationship to go into rehab and go into my 4-month sober living program. So I had no idea where I was going to live. Right. Left the job. I had no idea where I was going to work. I had no money. I was at ground zero and a lot to figure out. But one of the things with change, and one of the things in this program, it says it in the promises, right? Sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. I think with change for me, it was small steps. There was no way that I was in, that's why I kind of laugh at some of these rehab programs for 30 days. There's no way you come out at the end of 30 days and you have a psychic change and you have everything figured out and live a whole new life.
Right. You've got 28 days. Why? Because that's what the insurance companies will pay.
Exactly.
And then B, you walk out of there.
Well, isn't that coincidental?
Yeah.
Right? Hey, Mike, you need 28-day treatment.
Right.
Everybody needs 28 days.
Yeah. Well, when you go to get them to pay for the 29th, they're nowhere to be found.
Right. And then all of a sudden, you're good.
Yeah, you're good. But let's talk about those relationships for just a second. So you get up off your counselor's floor, you walk out of rehab, and you look outside, and the scope of your life, there's these smoldering bridges. You've got the main bridges that let's call it your main relationship, but then you got these other smoldering bridges. We don't know if they're burnt beyond repair, right? But there's certainly still smoke. Some are still spewing out fire and ash. Maybe the one with your spouse, maybe the one with your sister, brother, son, child, whatever. And other ones you don't know how damaged they are. But how did you begin to process those things as you got up off the counselor's floor? Because you had to do something about it. So you went to rehab, but then let's talk about post rehab, because you just said your problems don't go away just because you're not accessible to the outside world.
Right. First of all, in rehab, it is very freeing because the outside world is put on pause.
Right.
And in my mindset was, I don't care what happens out there. I can't deal with it anyhow. Like I didn't have the tools without drinking. I didn't know how to deal with the outside world. I had enough proof of that, right? And so I didn't care what happened out there. From relationships, for me, I had 2 when I was September 2014. I had 2 relationships I cared about that were burnt.
Disrepair.
Yeah, at the time beyond beyond repair. I had no other relationships in this world. I had one buddy that I've known for 20 years, and he understood what I was going through. I had nobody else in this world. So it's funny. So I was at zero in relationships. In fact, I've told the story where I stood up in treatment, and the counselor asked me, I blank dry erase board. He said, draw a circle. So I drew a circle. He said, write everybody's name in that circle who's on your team.
Mm-hmm.
And I stood there. I started to cry because I didn't have anybody. And finally, I mean, it was 3 minutes. It felt like 3 hours that I stood up there. And finally, I put the word me. I put Glenn in that circle because I thought that was the right thing to say. I didn't really know if I believed it at the time. But, and then the counselor spoke up. He goes, I'm on your team. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, I put Matt's name in there, right? But that's where I was at.
Right.
And I remember talking with people like you and others who had relationships to repair. Mm-hmm. And there were many times I was jealous of that. I'm like, I wish I had something I could work on and repair rather than go home back to my sober living room and have nobody. Mm-hmm. So but it's easier because then I started from the ground up. So I'm not sure where I'm really at with it.
I'll tell you, the two things just jump out.
Does that make sense?
And I don't want to spend the whole time on relationships, but yet again I do, because here's the thing. Here's what I know about Glenn today. Glenn is all about relationships. Glenn has relationships that now are. I mean, how many people would be in that circle today, Glenn? Seriously, I know you. Hundreds. I know you from work. Just your AA friends. And then you've got your extended family, and you're doing stuff with them all the time.
Yeah, I got 20 people in my family now,
you've got including
my two daughters.
You've got your church friends.
Yeah.
You've got your work friend. I mean, how big? Who's on Glenn's team today? The numbers.
I would need a couple circles.
You get another couple big circles.
That's
amazing. Where you've come to, and that's the hope of recovery. Is you get but you had to build each one of those, communication by communication.
Yeah, but part of that, and talk about change, is I am a different person today. Mm-hmm. None of those 100 people, and I'm just guessing, I don't know what the number is, but it's a lot. They never, at the old Glenn, nobody wanted to be with the old Glenn.
Right.
The old Glenn, all the old Glenn did was have the capability to earn money, and people wanted, people liked people with money. And
you paid the bar tab.
Yeah, I absolutely paid the bar tab. So you would have loved me.
And then lastly, to wrap up on the relationship chunk is let's just spend a minute talking about those two unrepairable relationships that you had in 2014.
Yeah, I mean, that's the proof of the program. That's the promises. So I had two relationships with my two daughters. In fact, when I surrendered to Matt, the first thing I had to surrender to, right? Because I when you mentioned getting off that floor, right? Because I was literally on the floor. I was sitting on the floor because I couldn't sit up in a chair after 8-day detox, 6 hospitals in 1 week, and he says, "Okay, Glenn, tonight is movie night with the guys," and I'm like, "Oh, I can do that."
I can do that.
I'm like, yes, sir. I'll be there at movie night, and I'll watch movie night. It was fun. Next day, we're all going for a walk. Okay, now you're pressing it, but I went for a walk. I had flip-flops. I got blisters. I remember. And then the following week, in one of my sessions with me, he goes, okay, now we need to start working. You and I need to work on the fact you're probably never going to see your daughters again. You burnt that relationship too bad. You're not going to see them again. We need to start dealing with that. And I'm like, whoa. That's not acceptable. Mm-hmm. I said, I need to reach out. He says, no, time out. I thought you surrendered. I'm like, well, I did, but not to that.
Yeah, right.
And he goes, no. That's not how this works, right? So now today I have an amazing relationship with them. We posted in 2022 a Wedding Bells episode where I was father of the bride. And I mean, just amazing relationship. My other daughter in Santa Monica. I mean, I mean, he was just so special. But it's funny, the relationship today looks nothing like what I viewed relationships would be like before 2014.
Well, that's the whole
They're
thing
real.
about them. They're real. I know about your network not because I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on Instagram. Well, I am on Instagram, but that's just to follow sobriety stuff. So I don't know how many followers you have. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people on Glenn's team. I see it because I walk this life with you, and I see the people on your team, and they're real. They're real individuals, not just Facebook followers. And
Yeah, I don't count. I mean, we have thousands and thousands of social media. I mean, there's probably 5 of those people that I know, right, that I've interacted with. We've interacted with from the podcast that we've had them on, and it's all sobriety based.
You know what I'm getting excited about? I'm getting excited about the people that are signing up for our email list. And trust me,
that list is growing.
It's growing, and we don't inundate people. We've only really sent out a couple of emails, but I think it'll be interesting in the future that we can maybe start conversing down those paths and build relationships.
That's fantastic.
Using that as a conduit.
Yeah. So here's another challenge. Since we're talking about challenges, for me, one of the biggest challenges is I had to find my groove. Right. So I was in a relationship that she hated AA. She mocked AA. She mocked the people in AA. She hated that I was in recovery. She hated that I need support. She viewed it as a weakness. She used to say that I was fragile. I hate that F word, right? And so, I mean, one of the reasons why I left that relationship was because I knew I was never going to be successful in sobriety in that relationship. I didn't have the support. Now on the flip side, my wife today, 1,000% supportive, because what she understands is she gets
By the way, not the same woman that you had the relationship with.
No.
Right.
Different woman.
Right. Okay. So she
I
hasn't
left that
done-
woman.
Yeah, good for you. Right.
I know. And working with my sponsor, working with my therapist, that relationship has played its course out.
Right.
And the only way to progress with recovery was leave.
Right. Good.
So my wife today, 1,000% supportive.
Right.
Anything that has to do with recovery, she raises her hand. She supports me doing, whether it's leaving at 5 a.m. for podcasting, whether it's going to meetings, whether it's going to meet a sponsee, whether it's now I'm working with the sober living recovery center, and I mean I spend a lot of time every week. I might spend 20 hours a week on recovery.
Right.
She supports every minute of that.
Right. Isn't that fantastic?
So it's important to find your support group or groove. I think part of that is to make sobriety a priority.
Right.
If you try to fit sobriety in with your busy life, good luck.
If sobriety is your priority, though, don't you find that there's by default or just by a rising tide raises all boats, right? I mean, all of a sudden things like boredom or loneliness, that challenges become lessen, or your relationships or money problems, or dealing with your emotions, right? If sobriety is your priority, don't you find that? And again, it's not the unicorns and monkeys and giraffes or whatever you call it, but things definitely improve if you're focusing. It's not 100% guaranteed. People still die, by the way, and people and jobs still go away, and cars still break down, and relationships go off the rails. All that kind of stuff happens, but it's not as traumatic, I guess, internally when they happen if you're dealing from the basis of your priority in sobriety.
Yeah, for me, I spent, and I'm just, as you're sharing, I'm just trying to do the math in my head. So let's just say today, 20% of my, and I'm guessing here, I know you have your calendars with all the colors on them and everything. I think that's super sexy. But let's just say I spend 20% of my time on sobriety today. My first 2 years of sobriety, 2014, 15, 16, I probably spent 50 to 60% of my time in sobriety.
Sure.
that was my number one thing. You know, if you look at the 24-hour reading on January 6th, my number one thing that I live for today is sobriety. If I'm not sober, I don't have anything else. So for 2 years, I laid low on everything else. And I went sometimes, 1, 2, 3 meetings a day. I would, go out with people and have coffee. And I was a student. I learned and learned and learned. And I knew that I was less than in the other areas. I had a relationship. Actually, she's my wife now, but I saw her 1-2 times a week. I did some work, probably 30 hours a week. But the rest of the stuff, I was in sobriety. And today, sobriety is my number one priority. If I have to get to a meeting, or I need to do something for sobriety, that takes precedence over anything else. And I get the result from it.
Right. Well, isn't that the thing? It's at the end of the day, it's working for me. My program is working for me. Do I need to do all the things I need to do? My color for sobriety on my color-coded calendar is yellow, and I see a lot of yellow on there. But do I need to do that? Well, can I remain sober with less yellow? I don't know if I can. I'm not willing to risk it.
That's why I do 23 things a day, a week, a month for sobriety, and that's why I keep doing the 23, because I know 23 work.
Right.
I don't know if 18 work.
I know.
And I don't want to take that risk.
I don't want to take the risk either. So let's leave our family, our listening family with this. So you're going to have challenges. What I've heard us say is
just because you stop drinking doesn't mean unicorns and rainbows are coming forever.
Right. So
I want to be a Debbie Downer. I hope that's not what this episode is about.
No, I don't think so at all, because I think
it's using tools for reality.
Well, absolutely. You have to get up off the counselor's floor. You eventually have to put your left foot in front of your right foot. So I think that's what we do, is we do that in the spirit and with the priority towards sobriety. And then I think the other challenges we're gonna survive them. Go ahead.
No, I just love that. I just underlined it. Get off the counselor's floor.
Yeah, right.
I think that's going to be the title for the episode.
Love it.
Oh, brother. Hey, you know what? Our lives still have challenges today, but we've learned how to face them and face them differently. We have different tools. And what were challenges yesterday are not necessarily our challenges today.
And we're going to have new ones tomorrow.
That's correct.
All right. Love you, man.
Love you, man.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@Sober.Coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.